Hello and welcome to Saints Live. I'm Steve Forbes and we're here at a rather chilly, albeit bright and sunny St Mary's Stadium as Southampton prepare to take on Arsenal in the fourth round of the FA Cup. It's a quick turnaround for Saints. They only just played Shrewsbury in the third round on Tuesday, and we now face a double header against the Gunners as we've got them again in the Premier League on Tuesday coming. We've got loads coming up on the show for you today. We'll be going through some previous FA Cup moments for Southampton. We'll also be looking at the team news as soon as we get it. And do make sure to get your comments in via the social channels, whether you're watching via YouTube or Facebook. Now, she promised me, or I promised her, that I'd give her as big an intro as possible. So getting through as many as those comments through the show, and joining us from pitchside is none other than Saints Live legend, Kenzie Benali.
Oh, that'll do, Steve. Thank you very much for that. Beast the old ego. Yes, welcome along to Saints Live. Please do get in touch. As Steve said, you are the heartbeat of this show, and we will read through as many of those comments as we can. Also joining us on the show today, two fantastic guests, former Saints captain Dean Hammond and Premier League reporter Paul Belveston. Great to have you both along with us. Let's dive straight in though, because we do have so much to talk through in today's show, and the team news is coming our way in just under 15 minutes time now. Now we do know that Ralph of course made 7 changes to the team that played midweek and beat Shrewsbury in the FA Cup, but he has hinted at the fact that he will be using some players that didn't feature in that game. We know Danny Ings is back in contention for today, and no other players will be returning from injury. Belvis, let's start with you. We asked you before the game midweek if you could predict the lineup. You said you wouldn't like to. Any guesses on the way we'll line up to take on Arsenal this afternoon?
I was right to say that, wasn't I? I don't think anyone could have predicted that team against Shrewsbury, but oh wow, I've been wrestling with this one today. The injury list is a real concern, so Ralph won't want to risk adding to that. But you can really make a case for Saints playing their first choice team today, especially with some of the players who were rested in midweek. But equally, you can go the other way as well. I can't even decide between the goalkeepers, whether he'll play Fraser Forster again as his cup keeper or whether Alex McCarthy will come back. Obviously, there are the 3 matches coming up in the Premier League in very quick succession, how much of an impact that'll have. I can see it being a first choice back 4, although then, with Ryan Bertrand suspended for Tuesday, there's still would you like Jake Vokins to have 2 matches to warm up and that sort of thing. But I think it'll mainly be strong. I think with a sprinkling of academy talent in there, but yeah, I think they'll certainly be going for it. Certainly want to win today. So yeah, certainly a very strong team, if not the absolute strongest he could name.
Okay, so Belvis is predicting a strong lineup. Dean, what about you? What do you think Ralph will do with the starting 11 today?
No, I agree with Paul. I think the manager will go strong. I personally think he'll go as strong as he possibly can. One, because I think Arsenal will go strong. They're the holders of the competition. They'll want to attain the trophy if they possibly can. It's a good route for them to be successful again this season. So I would imagine the manager would want to get the strongest team out he possibly could. The younger players done exceptionally well on Tuesday night. Going through that experience, they'll need time to recover as well. And players, I'm sure Danny Ings will come back in today. The more game and minutes he can get under his belt, the better. It's a tough game, but also it's a good game. It's a route towards Southampton having some success in the cup. So no, I think the manager will look at it. There's lots of games coming up, but it's like that for the rest of the season now. So the younger players have come in. He's given the manager some thought, some thinking about his selection. But I think he'll go as strong as he possibly can.
Yeah, well, we did only play Shrewsbury in the third round on Tuesday night, so let's have a look at the highlights from that game.
A wet and wild night here on the south coast. Southampton will be hoping to avoid the sort of storm that Shrewsbury have handed out to many good sides in the last few years. Southampton go long early, try and get the ball up towards Unlundaloo, who shoots low and it's going to dribble almost past Sarkic. The Shrewsbury players complain to the referee looking for a handball. I thought it was a nice delivery from Worley. He's going to come back out to him on the left as the ball back in. This is a chance. Curls it and Forster has to tip it away. Still in play, but a flag's gone up for offside. He's given some debuts to players. If he gets a win, they get experience, and it's through you go. As long as he's there, Sarkic parries a thigh from Stevens. It wasn't really a shot, but it's the first time a corner's looked effective for Southampton. Ward-Prowse with a great switch of play out to Vokings, deep in the Shrewsbury half. Back in field, save from Sarkic, and it didn't go over the line. The referee waiting for a decision. In the end, that might have been brilliant defending. 87th minute.
That's good play from Southampton.
Worked it nicely. Vokins with the early ball. Vokins to Shea Adams to finish it. Adams round the keeper. Sarkic beaten, but he hits the ball against Pierre, who clears it off the line for the second time, and then Jankovic's follow-up shot is blocked brilliantly. Four-man wall, the ball 3 yards outside the penalty on the left. Ward-Prowse is going to have a go at this, curls it, and it's gone in for the second, and that does finish the game. And that's a fourth direct free kick of the season for James Ward-Prowse. He's 10th in a Southampton shirt.
So those were the highlights there from our third round tie against Shrewsbury. Now, Dean, I take it when you come up against lower league opposition, it's all about just getting through the round. But was it really good to see so many youngsters involved in that game?
It was, and you're right, Steve. It is all about getting through to the next round. But it was great to see the younger players come in to get that game time. The one thing I liked, and it's always good for the youngsters, the manager still plays some experienced players. So it's not just all younger players coming in. They get to play in that real first team experience, playing with the players that regularly play in the Premier League team. The younger players coming in, Daniel getting his first goal was for the club was brilliant. You know, very, very composed touch, took a second touch, really good finish across the goal for to get his first goal. That's special for him. Vokins was an attacking threat all game from left back. So it was great. You know, the more experienced players got some more minutes under their belt. 2-0, a clean sheet. Couldn't really have asked for any more. So it went perfect for the club on Tuesday night to set up the game today. And then younger players getting that experience and just getting more and more game time, building up the trust for the manager that potentially at some point during the season they'll get some Premier League experience. So yeah, really, really good evening. Night's work and 2 goals and a clean sheet, so couldn't have got any better.
Yeah, Belvers, Dean just mentioned those 2 goals there, one of them being another direct free kick goal from James Ward-Prowse. Just unbelievable, his 4th of the season. Where do you rank him in terms of the Premier League's best set piece takers, because he's certainly got to be up there, and what do you make of his chances for England?
It's his consistency with the free kicks, which is amazing. I mean, it's always just in that postage stamp, isn't it? Right next to the post, right just underneath the crossbar. And I think if you look at the best Premier League free kick takers of all time, he's already sort of pushing at the likes of, I don't know, Henry, Ronaldo, Zola. Certainly right now, players Willian, Marcos Alonso, they don't really take free kicks at the moment. Sigurdsson, Louis, I don't think I saw a couple of crackers in the Arsenal-Chelsea game recently with Mason Mount hitting the woodwork and Granit Xhaka scoring, but I don't think there's another player in the Premier League right now who really gets your expectation levels up so high when he stands over a free kick in a really dangerous position. You almost expect Ward-Prowse to score more often than he misses. He's remarkably good at that. And he's not just a set-piece taker now. He a few years ago, perhaps that was an accusation levelled at him. Gareth Southgate is a huge fan of his, of course. They've worked together for many, many years in the age groups. And I think the only thing standing in his way in terms of England at the moment, because he'll definitely be in the next squads, he's a fantastic all-round midfield player right now. The problem, I think, is that with Southampton playing 4-2-2-2, England tend to play 3 at the back. So then in midfield, you've got a holding player where he'd be battling against Dyer, Rice, Henderson. And then the other midfield players are far more attacking, your likes of Mason Mount, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish. So he'd definitely be in the squads. I'm not saying he can't play those positions. I just think that the way Gareth Southgate wants his midfield players to perform perhaps is different to the way Ralph Hasenhüttl's asking Prowse to play for him right now.
Guys, James has scored or assisted in 8 of Southampton's Premier League goals this season. Only Aston Villa's Jack Grealish. He's the only English midfielder to have contributed to more goals this season. Now, Dean, James is doing his bit, but if he's going to be in contention for a starting berth at the Euros in the summer, is that realistic?
Well, it's always realistic because I agree with Paul. He's going to be within the squad 100% if he continues this consistent form. He's playing so well. Like I've mentioned all along, since he's been captain, that extra responsibility he's had has made him a better player. But can he get a starting place? That area of the pitch for England is very, very talented. It's very, very strong. And what Paul mentioned there, they have two midfield players where one is a holding midfield player and one is more of an attacking midfield player, where Gareth likes them to be able to really dribble with the ball and attack players and open up space. Now, James hadn't potentially got that, but he can adapt his game. He is an all-round midfield player and he does everything very, very well. So yes, he can definitely get a starting place. Is it realistic that it would definitely happen? I'm not sure. But if he continues playing like he does for Southampton, when he gets the opportunity for England, if he makes an impact, if he scores a free kick, if he gets more assists like we've just mentioned there, then he'll be working his way in. And like Paul mentioned, he's already got a really strong relationship and understanding with Gareth Southgate. So he's got a very, very good chance, but he just needs to continue playing well and continue his form for the rest of the season.
Yeah, he really is a phenomenal player. Now back to today's game then. We face Arsenal twice in just 4 days. Today, of course, in the FA Cup, and then on Tuesday in the league. Ralph was asked in his press conference, which is the priority?
Can you prioritise either game, or do you have to treat them both the same? Because fans will have their own view as to whether they'd rather win in the Cup or take 3 points.
I don't know what they prefer. I prefer winning both, to be honest. If it's possible, we do it, but I know it's tough. Yes, we have the chance to, I think. When we have on a good day, we can beat every team in the league. We have shown this, especially at home. And I think this is the goal we have. Yes, tough, like always, but not impossible.
Okay, well, welcome back to Saints Live. So, which game is the most important for you guys today then? Because Ralph seems to think that they're both equally as important. He's going for back-to-back wins there. Belvers, what is it for you, today's Cup game or the Premier League match on Tuesday?
Well, that's a tricky one, isn't it? Saints fans would all love a cup run, absolutely love a cup run, but also with the season being so peculiar in the Premier League this season, with it being so open, there's already been talk of really pushing for a European place. There was even Champions League talk, perhaps tongue-in-cheek this week, wasn't there? So I think also you've got to bear in mind the financial implications of the pandemic and the problems in football right now. Making it into Europe, if that and absolutely doesn't only ride on Tuesday's game in the Premier League, but pushing up there, getting into Europe for next season with the Premier League plays, or by winning the FA Cup, that could really ease some of the problems around and help Southampton keep pushing forward. So I'd perhaps edge towards the Premier League game, but this FA Cup game's huge as well, and we'd love a cup run.
Well, Dean, the FA Cup can be a great route into Europe and perhaps easier than the prospect of finishing 6th or 7th. Do you see this as an opportunity for Southampton, or is it a bit of a distraction?
I don't think it's a distraction at all. I think it's definitely an opportunity. A cup run is brilliant for the football club. Players, I can tell you, love cup runs, especially when you get to the later stages. It does make the season really, really exciting. Southampton are in a brilliant position in the league. Yes, the form's kind of been a little bit inconsistent lately, but they've had a fantastic start and they're well within the pack. I think if you look at both, winning a cup competition is very, very difficult. Whatever draw you get, to win consistent games in a row, to be the best team in that competition is difficult. And like Paul said, with it being such a unique season, with it being so close, you win a couple of games, you get into the European spots, potentially challenging for the Champions League. But if you lose a few games, you also drop down as well. So it's hard to tell. Both games are really, really important. But I think from a player's perspective, you want a good cup run. It does make it exciting. Winning games breeds confidence. So I think the manager's seen there, perfect scenario. He'll try and win 2 games. And I think that's what he'll try and do with his team selection. How he goes with that, but he'll be definitely trying to win both games.
Yeah, well, it seems that the fans watching along at home are very much hoping for the same, Dean. Luke's got in touch and said, let's get to Wembley this season. Some big score predictions coming as well. And Christian has got in touch and said, I feel like we'll put our strong team out today. Well, Christian, you're absolutely correct, because I have the team news here, and Ralph has certainly gone with a strong starting 11. Fraser Forster does remain in goal. The back four, Carl Walker-Peters, Jan Bednarek, Jack Stevens and Ryan Bertrand. Anchoring the midfield is our captain, James Ward-Prowse, and alongside him is the impressive Ibrahima Diallo. Out wide, Stuart Armstrong, and taking on his former club once again today is Theo Walcott, and leading the line for Southampton is Shay Adams, and the returning Danny Ings, which I'm sure will be great news for all Saints fans watching along today. On the bench then for the Saints, Harry Lewis, Jan Valery, Jake Vokins, Kane Ramsey, Caleb Watts, Kegs Chauke, Alex Yankovic, Dan and Lundaloo and Shane Long. So there we go. We were having discussions earlier, Belvers. We weren't sure how this was going to be, but you both did say you were expecting a strong starting 11, and Ralph has certainly gone with that today.
Absolutely. I thought that is pretty much his strongest, isn't it? You'd probably pick Alex McCarthy in goal, of course, but other than that, from the players available, you can't really improve on it. So, yeah, Dean, spot on, saying that it would be his strongest. I thought there might be a little bit more caution in there with so many big Premier League games coming up, but I'm very excited. I think this is a real show of intent that Southampton are saying we want to win this game, we want to go on a cup run, and Arsenal are there for the taking as well. So we're going to name our best team and we're going to beat them twice in 4 days.
It's certainly showing intent, as you say, Belvers. Dean, does it surprise you that Ralph has essentially put out the strongest team possible, given that in just a few days we go again in the Premier League?
It doesn't surprise me, because I think that this is what the manager does. He's very, very consistent with his team selection. And it wouldn't surprise me if he goes with the same team for the Tuesday as well, almost like as a rehearsal or practice game today. You know, get the team out, play against Arsenal, potentially beat them, and then go again on Tuesday. So it doesn't surprise me. I think the manager wants to win every game. He mentioned that in his press conference. In a perfect scenario, he'll try and win both games. And the only thing that he may do potentially today is that, you know, he'll make a few changes after about an hour. He'll bring some players off, let them have an hour, stretch their legs, hopefully win the game. We know Southampton start very, very quickly, try and get in the front foot and try and win the game early. And if they can do that, if they can get ahead, then maybe bring a couple of youngsters off the bench. So they may not play, the starting 11 may not play the full 90 minutes. So that might be the difference. But no, I like it. I like the intent that the manager's shown, that we're going to try and win this game for the FA Cup. We're respecting the cup run and you know, let's try and win it.
Yeah, definitely. It was great to see Ralph name such a strong lineup. Now, we're going to rewind the clock now back to January 2011 for a previous FA Cup game here at St Mary's, as a then League One Southampton took on a then Premier League side, Blackpool.
Yes, welcome back to St Mary's. A cracking cup tie in prospect here. Centre field. And he plays a ball wide to Lambert. Couldn't let it run for Schneidlin, but he picks it up and he goes for a long-distance shot. Radchupka doesn't quite gather it the first time of asking. Just nicks it away from Barnard's outstretched boot at the second time, and the danger over. But little test for the goalkeeper, and Barnard nicks it off his hand. Now, what's the referee going to do here? That reminded me, Dave, of a Gary Crosby incident from Nottingham Forest years ago against Manchester City when the goal was given.
Referee spotted it, he's pointing to the corner flag straight away, and they take a quick one.
I'm with you on that. They have taken it quick, gets back to Lallana. He dicks into the ball to back post. The goalkeeper comes out, doesn't make it. Cleared up into the air, right under the goal post. Then the shot off the crossbar. Oh, how did he not score, Ricky Lambert? They lead Plymouth Argyle. Mark Pugh with the score. Now Lallana benefits, passes the ball left. Onside is Lambert, low shot saved. Back to Barnard, surely. Barnard scores! Southampton have the lead in the third round of the FA Cup. It was that combination again. Lallana to Lambert. Across comes Ewell to tackle him, back to Dixon, he dummies it to Gulli de Prado, he twists away from one, shoots on the turn!
Oh,
what a goal that is from the Brazilian! On the turn, whacked it right-footed and it flew past Paul Radchupka in the Blackpool goal. And this time Chamberlain's onside over the centre circle, he's going to race through on goal on his own, the one defender back, Punchin's inside him, Chamberlain into the penalty area, hits the post! Well, it would have been a tap-in for Punchin. Chamberlain went for the goal.
Wow, what a game. But Dean, I imagine one of mixed emotions for you because, of course, a great win, but you did come off injured and would go on to miss the fourth round tie against Manchester United.
Yeah, it was a really, really good win. I think Blackpool were in the Premier League at the time as well. We were obviously League One trying to push for promotion, but played a really, really strong team. Yeah, I got injured, and stupid as I was at the time, should have came off at half time because I felt it was my calf muscle. I felt some pain in my calf, but wanted to go out and continue playing. But a great result, really, really good against a strong Blackpool team. And if you look at the team we put out, I really enjoyed playing in that team, especially with the players we had. Adam Lallana, Morgan Schneidlin, Chambo, Jason Punch and Ricky Lambert, Lee Barnard. And them two together, it's a shame that Barney had a few injuries because that partnership between them two could have been really special, I think. But no, a really good result. Obviously, then I got injured and missed the Man United game. But again, it just shows the beauty of the FA Cup, playing a Premier League team at Blackpool at home, then going on to play Manchester United at home. That is the special nature of the FA Cup. But no, a great win, some great goals. And I remember the game very, very clearly because we wanted to make a marker. We were a League One team, but we believed we were better than that, and we showed that on the day.
Yeah, now Paul, Saints were obviously having a good season in League One, but when you're beating Premier League opposition in the FA Cup, that must have been a real sign of things to come, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think Blackpool, in a way, kind of showed Southampton a possible path as well, because so many promoted teams were then completely changing their squads in the summer to adapt to the Premier League. Blackpool kept faith with a lot of their players who'd got them promoted. And Southampton, of course, went on and did that. You look at the spine of that team in League One with Kelvin Davis in goal, Jose Font, Morgan Schneidlin, Lallana, and then Lambert. That spine wasn't just the spine for the start of their first Premier League campaign a couple of years on. It was even the spine the next season as well. It was so important. And I don't think anyone back in 2010 really looked at that team and thought, yeah, they'll do well in the Premier League. Everyone was focusing on promotion from League One, but the way that spine stayed the same, and then a lot of academy players, Luke Shaw and James Ward-Prowse, came into that to bolster it. It wasn't all about going out and spending lots of money. That was the start of the Southampton way again, showing that this club does things differently and has a philosophy that it can stick with and can prove very, very successful.
Dean, Ricky Lambert has come out recently and said that he found it quite difficult, and the side in general, facing matches against Ian Holloway. There were a couple of league meetings against Blackpool the following season, and Saints didn't win either. What is it about that opponent and as a manager that Southampton found so tough?
Yeah, I mean, the following season, obviously, we got promoted that year and Blackpool got relegated. So we met each other in the championship. And one thing you realised about Blackpool, they were very, very attacking. They kind of just didn't really worry about how many goals they conceded. They would be on the front foot and try and score as many goals as they possibly could. I was actually speaking to Gary Taylor-Fletcher yesterday about this. And he mentioned that Ian Holloway was very much, everything in training was all about attacking football, patterns of play of trying to score goals, and they caused us problems. And for some reason, we couldn't get a result against them that season. I think we drew 2-2 on the home game. We scored very late on with Ricky Lambert with a header at the back post, which he was consistent in doing. And then away from home, I think Billy Sharp missed a penalty early on, and then we went on to lose 3-0. So bit of a bogey team against Blackpool, but they were a good team. Like Paul mentioned, they had a couple of good seasons. They were full of experienced players that had either worked their way up from the lower leagues or younger players that had been rejected by bigger clubs, and it was a good mix for them. And it was always a good game, a competitive game. But Ian Holloway, a good character, a funny guy, but yeah, they were an attacking team, and they did cause us a few problems that season.
Yeah, on the subject of Ian Holloway, Paul, have you got any experience of interviewing him or coming across him on your travels? I've only seen him doing punditry duties, but he does seem like quite a character.
Oh, he came out with some fantastic quotes. He was so entertaining. I was working in the Premier League offices that first season, and when he was coming out with quotes in virtually every press conference, it seemed, when he was saying things like, I love it in Blackpool. We're very similar. We both look better in the dark. Things like that were just gold, although whether they translate around the world all the time, I'm not sure. But actually, he nearly ended my Premier League reporting career before it started, because that first season I was up there 2010 that summer. There was a Premier League launch event when they always got a newly promoted team, one from the sort of the bottom half, one from the middle, and then the champions as well. Blackpool were there, and I remember he walked over to do the interview with me, and one of my new bosses was right next to me, and she was talking up Ian Holloway as being so entertaining, and she wanted to listen to our interview. And he came in and he was in a right grump because it was 9:30 in the morning, so he'd had to get up ridiculously early to come down from Blackpool with his captain, with one of his star players as well. And he basically launched into this rant before we started the interview about whose stupid idea was this, getting us down here? How am I supposed to do a training session? We've only got 2 days until the first game. And I was there a little bit sort of nervous, and then I went, it's her idea. Pointed to my boss and thought, oh, what have I done there? That's possibly the end of my time there already. But after that, the interview went well, and she seemed to forgive me.
Oh, well, that's good news at least, Balbers. Dean, now we have to talk about that Gulli de Prado goal. What a strike that was. He was actually on loan at the club at that time and went on to sign permanently 12 days later. Perhaps not a coincidence. An unbelievable goal.
Yeah, it really was. And Gulli had that knack of scoring goals like that. He would do it a lot in training. Fully aware of what he was going to do. I think Ricky Lambert drifted out to the left, a good pass into Gulli, and he tried to do a double drag back, I think, and kind of misjudged it, moved it out of his feet again, and then just struck it, curled it into the top corner. But yeah, that was Gulli kind of introducing himself to the players, introducing himself to the club and the crowd. But no, he could do that, and he'd done that a lot in training. So a brilliant strike, really, really was. And he went on, we spoke about him before, he went on to become a really, really important player for the football club, and a great guy, and great way to introduce yourself. And like you say, probably did help him signing on a permanent deal a few days later.
Yeah, really wonderful goal that was. Now let's take a look at what's being said on the socials from everyone watching along on Saints Live at home. Certainly feeling positive for today's game against Arsenal in the FA Cup, and lots of you understandably extremely happy with the strength of the starting 11. Pauline's left us this comment on Facebook. She says, nice strong team lineup. It's going to be a good match. Phil, hello to you. He says, missing Oriol Romeo, but Diallo is doing a great job. He certainly is, Phil. Rosemarie, thanks for this one. She says, good strong team. Ralph knows what he's doing. Let's win the game, then come on Wolves. Come on you Reds. Carl, hello to you. He's going for a big 4-1 win to the Saints today and is backing Danny Ings to get a brace. He's also saying a Ward-Prowse free kick, which wouldn't be surprising, would it? And Walker Peters from distance. Wow, what a prediction. Luke says, come on you Saints. We've also got a comment here from Samuel. He says, big performance today, lads. Come on you Reds. And Christian is really happy to see our strongest team. So lots of positivity coming in on the social channels, Steve.
Yeah, definitely loving the confidence from the fans. Right, now we've got a new segment for the show, guys, where we want to get your thoughts on things that have been in the news this week. First up, the Premier League have announced that teams will be able to permanently substitute players who have suffered or are suspected to have got a concussion. They'll be allowed to make 2 changes, and the opposition will also be able to make a change at the same time. Dean, what's your opinion on this? And did you ever suffer a concussion during your playing career?
Personally, I never suffered any concussion during my playing career. I was quite fortunate in that respect. But I think it's good. It's a step forward. I think the players' well-being is really, really important. And I think being able to make that substitution at any point to keep the players safe is important. To be able to have the opposition team to be able to make an additional substitution as well to keep it fair helps. But I think also the question is, it's not just taking some action, it's understanding still who's going to make that decision. Is it, when is that decision going to be made that a player has sustained concussion or has got a head injury that needs to come off? I think that's the next bit, the next progression where that becomes really, really important, because as a player, as a former player, there's no way in the world I'd want to come off the pitch. Whatever's happened to me, if I believed I could carry on, I'd be arguing my own case. Now, that needs to be really, truly and properly taken out of the players' hands. The players should not be able to have any influence over that because they're not in the physical condition to make that decision. So I think that's the next step. I don't think, they've mentioned about doing similar things to rugby players, where they're going to bring them off for a temporary period to be able to look at them and maybe judge them and analyse them. I don't think that works in football personally. I think it'd be too much to and fro and too much confusion. I just think for one game, if a player has suffered a head injury, why take the risk? Trust in the doctors, trust in the physios, bring the player off. Yes, the player will be frustrated. Yes, the manager will be frustrated because it could change the team shape. It could change the result of the game. But nothing's more important than a player's health or well-being. You know, you're talking about cases now. We're talking about dementia. I've got some dementia in my family where my uncles have suffered that, so it's quite close to home. I just think it's really, really important. And for that, why take the risk? So it's a good step forward, I think. But there's still some more development to go with this.
Yeah, definitely a positive step forward, as you say, Dean. Belvis, another thing making the headlines this week is the offside rule. When is it ever not in the headlines, it seems? We saw Manchester City awarded a controversial goal after Rodri appeared to be coming back from an offside position to then tackle Tyrone Mings. What was your take on that, and do you think the goal should have stood?
No, I don't. And I don't think it's a good look when later that evening there's a very similar situation on the continent and the goal is disallowed for exactly the same reason. So I think we've got ourselves into a position where the worry with VAR and so on was that it would take the debate out of football. It certainly hasn't done that. I think it's not a good look when some goals are ruled out for someone's knee or shoulder being what seems a millimetre or two offside, and they have to zoom in and get all those lines out, and then others like this, which seem blatantly offside, are then still allowed. And there have been a number of occasions this season where the Premier League have had to then release a statement after the game to explain why, and that hasn't quelled the argument, the disappointment, and so on. And this isn't a Premier League problem or a PGMOL, the referees board over here. It's not that. They're all ruled by IFAB, the International Football Association board, FIFA's rule-making arm. And there was that statistic earlier in the season that David Ellery, the old Premier League ref, who's in charge of this area, in 5 years has brought in 180 rule changes, which seems an extraordinary number because some of them have been quite small, some of them have been quite sensible, a lot of them are just minor tweaks. And you know, handball is still very confusing. Offside has never been more confusing for me, and I don't think it's helping promote the game around the world to keep everyone entertained. We've seen how when goals are scored, celebrations are often sort of just a little bit sort of put on pause as they wait to see whether there was any sort of grazing of the arm in the build-up or how it's going to get pulled back. And I think we should be trying to simplify things again to make it more accessible. At the moment, it's in danger of becoming a little bit too technical and encouraging people to turn off. I mean, I go back to those highlights of the game against Blackpool when Lee Barnard sort of nodded the ball out of the goalkeeper's hand and scored a goal. That's a great sort of thing to debate after the game. You know, if the goalkeeper's so stupid to put it on a plate like that, shouldn't that be allowed? Not debating millimeters and not debating phases of play and things like that. I just think it's too technical, too confusing, and it's going to cause a big switch off around the world.
Yeah, I do find some of the rules a bit overly complicated. Dean, what's your thoughts on this one? And would you be raging if a goal had gone against your side in this fashion?
Yeah, totally. I agree with Paul. I think the rules are a little bit too confusing. They are for players, for fans, for anyone involved in the game, where it just needs to be simplified again. The beauty of football, that it's an exciting sport, that it moves quickly and there's some intensity about it. The slow stopping, making sure every decision is spot on, is correct. And then we're still not even getting them decisions right. So it's difficult. I understand it from the point of view that it's a business. There's so much money in the game now that they're trying to get these decisions spot on. But surely the point of football and the fun of football is that there's mistakes, is that there's talking points, and you're actually talking about the game, not necessarily technical decisions. I think that's where it comes a little bit boring. It's taken away the fun of the game. And that goal, it's of course it's offside. The player has made a forward run from a pass back. I can understand where there's a bit of debate in that, but then the ball's gone forward and come back in his direction. A defender feels as though he's got time on the ball, and then a defender comes from a striker comes from, a midfield player comes from the blind side and takes it off him. That's not fair play. You can't do that. That's taking an advantage. So it's definitely offside, and I would be fuming. And I know that Aston Villa manager was and had a few choice words to say to the referee, and that just causes frustration. So it's difficult. The game needs to flow again. That's the fun of football. It flows. There's mistakes. There's talking points. It gets emotions in the crowd. It brings atmosphere and noise to the stadium, and that's the beauty of football.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think for fans as well, when those lines come out, everyone despairs, don't they? But moving on then, let's go back to social channels, see what's being said at home. Again, just plenty of confidence coming in from the fans. Joe, thank you for your comment here. He says, come on you Reds, in Ralph we trust. Howard's left us a comment as well. He says, come on you Saints, we really need a big performance today. Jeanette's left us this comment. She says, great late lineup, and a nice smiley emoji as well. And JB has said, Arsenal seem to be resting a lot of their big players. A big chance for Saints today. Yes, it certainly is. Obviously, we of course would love to progress in the Cup. So let's talk about today's game, the importance of today's game. Belvis, it's been a strange old season for Arsenal. They have kind of had a bit of a recent revival, but it's certainly been a rocky road for them so far. What have you made of them this season?
I've been to the Emirates quite a bit recently, actually. I was at the Chelsea game on Boxing Day. I've done the Palace and Newcastle games as well recently. And they've had this mini revival, having won only one of 10 Premier League games before Christmas. There was all the talk of crisis, and then they beat Chelsea. But I thought Frank Lampard's side were really poor that day. I was really quite surprised. And then did they win? They won 4 in a row if you include the Newcastle FA Cup game where they needed extra time. But again, they weren't the most convincing. They are trying to change things. It's a big season of transition. They've shifted formation a number of times. They've had 3 at the back for a long time. They've gone back to a 4 now, and it seems that Emile Smith-Rowe, the 20-year-old playing in that number 10, has had a big impact in this winning run, or this unbeaten streak that they've enjoyed. But the Palace game, again, they were very poor that day. They didn't really create anything. And the first half against Newcastle just a few days ago, again, I was astonished, really. They were much better second half, but Newcastle themselves are a bit of a mess at the moment. So I see that they've left out their captain, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, today. They're playing 4 at the back again, but there's no Kieran Tierney, and I think he's very important to them. There are still big question marks over the likes of Willian, who plays today, Pepe, who again plays today. That Martinelli is a very exciting young player. I think he can cause some problems, and they've got this nice blend of youth and experience in there again, but they're still trying to find the right balance, really, of the players that Mikel Arteta can completely rely on from the experience point of view, and the young players who he can mould in his image. And they're trying to find this way that he wants them to play, the right formation, the right players. And I think if this unbeaten streak carries on, hopefully not over the next two games, obviously, but if over the next couple of months, if they're still showing signs of progression, then Mikel Arteta will be given more time. And I think there's a potentially very bright future ahead for them. But it was only a month or so ago that there was a lot of talk that Arteta was going to lose his job. So it's a very, very interesting time at the Emirates right now, and I think Southampton could cause them big problems over these next 4 days.
Well, Dean, Southampton did dominate large parts of that 1-1 draw at the Emirates last month. Probably can consider themselves quite unfortunate not to have won the game. Is there much between the two sides for you?
No, I think considering that game, I think personally the first half in that 1-1 draw was Southampton's best performance of the season. I thought they were fantastic. The way they dominated the ball, the way they had possession of the ball. James Ward-Prowse and Aura Romeo that evening were fantastic. Just completely dictated play. Theo Walcott scoring against his former club. And that goal especially was just a demonstration of how well they played. It was a ball into Shea Adams, got a little bit lucky, but that forward run from Theo and Shea played him in, and a very, very classy finish. And probably could have won it at the end with Nathan Redmond's chance when I think Oreo put a fantastic chip ball through to him as well. So I think they could consider themselves unlucky on that evening. But it was one of the best performances personally from Southampton this season. But yeah, there's not too much between the teams. I think Arsenal in a transitional period, like Paul mentioned, Arteta's trying to figure out his best team, who to remove from the squad, who to potentially be able to bring in. And I think Southampton are developing all the time and becoming a better team. Unfortunately, have had the injuries of late, which has disrupted a bit of the form and the results. But I think Southampton have had a far better season personally. And this is a good game today and a great opportunity for Southampton and Tuesday to really show their dominance over Arsenal. And that's a big statement because Arsenal are a big football club, but Southampton have got a very, very good team now.
Yeah, they certainly are a big club, as you say. They are warming up behind me, as you can see, ready to take on the Saints at 12:15. Now, Dean, coming back to you for this one, since that 1-1 draw at the Emirates, Southampton have just scored once in 5 league games. Is that somewhat of a concern for you?
I think it has to be a little bit of a concern because that's how you win football matches, by scoring goals. But there's been clean sheets along the way, which is impressive. Danny Ings obviously being in and out of the team, picking up an injury has disrupted things a little bit because he is such a key player for the team, not only him personally, but I think he makes players around him better. I think he makes them play better because he demands more from them. But you're going to get stages in the season where you're going to have little bits of dip in form. But the team still picked up points, but they haven't scored as many goals and they haven't won as many games. So there's a few question marks over that, but they're still playing well. They're still performing well. Within that period, we've beaten Liverpool 1-0. You're not expected to score many goals against Liverpool. You're not expected to beat them. So I wouldn't be too worried. The form this season has been really, really impressive. The way the team's been really, really impressive. And I'm sure once the players come back from injury, once the manager can get that consistent team out again, I've mentioned it all season, when you're playing with players and you have that bond, when you have that relationship, it becomes second nature in how you play. So I think it's just a bit of a blip, but I wouldn't be too worried about it.
Now, Paul, you were at the 2003 FA Cup final where Southampton lost to Arsenal. What are your memories of that day, and how nice would it be for Saints to go all the way this time?
Oh, yeah, it'd be tremendous, for Southampton to only have the one major piece of silverware in the cabinet when it's such a big, important club. I think we're way beyond the time where they deserve to add another big trophy in there. And I live around here, and it would give the city, the county, such a big boost in this horrible time. As far as 2003, I have a very random memory that always pops up when I think about that day. It was a tremendous day. I was working for ITV Meridian, and there were two of us as far as reporters. We each had a cameraman, and my job after the game, while my colleague Andy Stegel went and did the post-match interviews and things, I went outside to get sort of colour shots of fans, hopefully celebrating, but ultimately, the disappointment or still sort of proud of the performance, that sort of thing, and a few vox pops, that sort of thing. And as I came out of the Millennium Stadium onto the sort of the main road on the opposite side to the station, this peculiar image came towards me. Do you remember Fabrice Fernandez, wonderful left foot? He'd been left out of the starting 11 because he'd sort of been made the scapegoat for the 6-1 defeat a couple of weeks earlier to Arsenal, the first game in their 49-game Premier League unbeaten run. And it was a big surprise that he hadn't started. He'd had a fantastic season. And I think there might even have been a row on the touchline when he came on, or when he was then brought on with sort of 4 or 5 minutes to go. I was outside only a few minutes after the final whistle. He was walking towards me in his cup final suit with a burger and chips from Burger King. And it was one of those really odd moments. I think there was only, and all these fans were walking past as well. Very few people noticed him. I remember he only signed the one autograph because he was just walking like he was not involved in this game at all. And then he walked back into the stadium, and seeing a player unhappy who's just minutes before been on the pitch, disappointed, picked up his runners-up medal, and then gone and got a Burger King. That image has stayed with me ever since.
I bet it has. Well, nothing a good burger can't fix, Belvis, eh? Well, Dean, back to today's game. There has to be a winner today, so added time and penalties is completely possible. Given the current situation, of course, that is understandable, but do you prefer ties to be settled on the day, or are you a fan of replays?
I think in the current season, it's brilliant that there's no replays. There's enough games at the moment. There's enough fixtures. There's a shorter period of time. It's a shorter season. So I think finishing on the day actually makes it more exciting. Unfortunately, there's not fans within the stadium because everyone enjoys a penalty shootout. But no, I prefer that. You get the result completed on the day. You're fully aware of that. I can understand in the FA Cup, the beauty of the FA Cup when you're a smaller team and you can potentially get a draw at home and then go to a bigger club and enjoy playing at the stadium, enjoy playing in front of a bigger crowd. I understand and appreciate that, and that is something special about the FA Cup. But if we're talking about the bigger clubs, as you go on through the later rounds, they don't want to be playing an additional game. The players play enough now. So finish on the day, I enjoy that. 90 minutes, extra time, penalties if possible, doesn't make it that little bit more exciting.
Paul, what's your stance on this? Do you like the drama of extra time and penalties, or are you a bit of a traditionalist who prefers the replays?
I absolutely love a penalty shootout, as long as it doesn't involve my team. If ever there's a penalty shootout, I don't care where in the world it is. If I flick over and I see that, that's brilliant, I get right into it. I think it's tremendous. All the scars are still very raw from failed England penalty shootouts especially, I hope that Southampton do the job in 90 minutes here today. But yeah, absolutely, there's no room for replays at the moment. It is a shame for the smaller clubs, but when could they possibly fit replays in? Every team's already playing every Tuesday or Wednesday and at the weekend. So I very much enjoyed the Brighton-Newport penalty shootout the other day. I hope to see a few more this FA Cup weekend, but not at St Mary's today.
All right, lovely to know. Right, gentlemen, so it's time to get your final thoughts and your score predictions before the game. Dean, let's come to you first.
I think it'll be a very, very good game. I'm looking forward to Southampton starting with that intensity on the front foot, scoring early, and then taking control of the game. So I'm going to go a 2-0 Southampton win.
And Paul, what about you? What do you think the score is going to be today?
I was going to say the same, because I think first choice back four, and with Prowsey and Diallo in front, I can see Arsenal really having problems. They're better away than they are at home at the moment, but they aren't scoring a huge number of goals themselves. I'll go 1-0 Southampton.
Okay, well, there we go. Kickoff is under half an hour away now. Dean, Paul, thank you so much for your insight as always. It's very close to the action here. Very much looking forward to kickoff. Arsenal do, of course, have a formidable record in this competition, but we know that Ralph Hasenhüttl is keen to secure back-to-back wins against the Gunners both today and on Tuesday. Now, of course, we will be back at the final whistle to dissect all of the major incidents from this game. Dean and Paul will be back with us for then. Make sure you are too. See you then.